gentlemen, welcome to another great episode of The Entire Empire, where we can't wait to talk about pro ball in the Empire State. I'm your guy, TJ. And listen, y'all in for a great one tonight because this is the official All-Star Weekend 2021 edition. Listen, we got our great usual suspects with us tonight. First and foremost, let me introduce us to the point guard himself, our NBA analyst, our NBA expert, Coach Kenny Anderson. Say what's up to the people, Coach.
What's up? What's up?
No doubt indeed. And to my brother from another, my co-host, my guy, my man with the master plan, Kev P. Talk to the people, bro.
Yeah, what's going on? I always say I'm excited, but this time I really mean it.
Hey, Coach Kev, I got to make sure I introduce our illustrious guest the right way, ladies and gentlemen. Probably in NBA history, the most underappreciated point guard. Listen, you can't talk about any point guard legends, any point guard genius without bringing up his name. And yeah, I said it on our show. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a New York native. He's coached on every level. He's had a great year as an NBA vet and pro. And trust me, he's this to some of your favorite big men in the league throughout all of his many seasons and all his great teams. And now he's a part of the NBA D League as a coach. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to have on NBA royalty, Mr. Rod Strickland. Mr. Rod Strickland, appreciate you tonight, sir.
Thanks for having me. Hey, but one thing is G League, not D League.
Yeah, G.
Not the D no more, it's the G. That's on me.
Yeah.
I apologize.
All good.
Absolutely.
Kev, let's get to it. Kev, let's get to it.
Yeah, let's absolutely get to it. This week we're going to kick it off rapping about the Brooklyn Nets. We all know what Harden has done this whole season, and he's had his triumphant return to Houston, where he had his second consecutive triple-double and his eighth since joining the Nets. He's doing big things. Here's a question I want to pose to you guys, and I'm going to throw it to Coach Rod right away. Has he become so vital to Brooklyn's success that should he succumb to injury that Brooklyn can't contend, or is this something that they can still do without him?
Well, I think that's probably the unique thing about Brooklyn. They have three bona fide guys that can carry that team. So, even if one of them goes down, I think they still have a chance, an opportunity. But obviously, Harden is an instrumental part of that. Having him, to me, makes you the favorite to come out the East. And I think it's going to make it tough on a Western Conference team. He has the ability to do it all. He's a triple-double waiting to happen. I think people were worried about how they would all coexist. And I kept telling people that at OKC, if you remember, when he played with KD and Russ, he was actually the playmaker. So he's capable of that. I think sometimes you go to a different organization, they give you the ball, you get to shoot a lot, and then you kind of become that. But he's always been able to play make. So, he's obviously a super important part to that team. And I would think they want all three of those guys. But, they have firepower.
For sure.
Definitely.
Coach Kenny, what's your thoughts?
The same. Harden is awesome, and his durability. He wants to play in every game. It's and that's what it's going to take for them to be successful. I think with Kevin Durant is out, he's taking all the minutes and the way he's playing style, and then Kyrie Irving is really big. Like Rod said, usually because we played in the league, you usually got two weapons out there, but they got three.
Yeah.
So that's a almighty thing that the Brooklyn Nets have, and I'm hoping that they will come out of the East.
I'd like to say that the way that I've seen him shoulder the load in Kevin Durant's absence, and then occasionally even with Kyrie's absence, still keeping them afloat, winning streaks in the whole 9 yards. It's evident that he's a vital part of that team. Clearly, they're still contenders without him because they were on their way without him. Clearly, we also traded away a lot of assets prior to that.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be silly to write them off if he's not playing. TJ, pitch in.
My thing is for the last 2 seasons, man, I question both Kevin Durant's health as well as Kyrie Irving's health. So my thing is, you don't want to ride the bid too much and make sure that James is the facilitator to carry so much of the weight and the brunt of the weight for that team. Yeah, there's a high onus on them getting to the NBA Finals and coming out the East. Right now, we can already tell that the Sixers is not going to just walk up out the door and say, hey, y'all got it, Brooklyn. That's not going to happen. So at the end of the day, KD's going to have to come back in, and me and Coach talked about this last episode, he got to find his niche. He got to find his place. All of them gonna have to be able to intermingle together to hoop and get busy. And the longer KD's out past All-Star break, we don't know how he fits in. It's gonna be tough. You can't just say like you want to wrap all that up for the last back end of the season, last 10 games of the regular season, and make it happen. We all seen what happened the first season of Miami. That big three ain't work.
I just KD's a different animal, man. he's a different animal, man. When he comes back healthy, and I think that's what they're afraid of, just letting him play, on and off. They just, he's getting healthy, and I think, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be great because he's a great mentally. He's a great mental, and I think he's gonna get it.
Yeah, and I would say this. Well, number one, and I'm not being a homer, but I think people are forgetting what Kyrie is doing as well.
Yes.
Right.
Talk about your godson, Mr. Strickland.
Yeah, that's what I say. I don't want to be a homer.
Talk your talk. Let's hear it.
But like honestly, the things that Kyrie is doing, like Kyrie is at another level right now.
Most definitely. I get it.
He's incredibly efficient
you can tell, all the things that have happened, things that have been said. He's packaging that and he's putting that into his play on the court. Yeah. And it's almost personal, right? Yeah. And as far as KD coming back, like Kenny said, that's a different animal. And I think we always forget, and sometimes I think we get caught up, sometimes I think it's too many talk shows, right? Because we get caught up in hearing certain things because and Kenny knows this and you guys know, but hoopers are hoopers. Like if you can play, you can play. So, and I understand what happened in Miami, and I think it was a little different dynamic because of I think they solved it once once Dwayne Wade said, "Hey, LeBron, it's your team." So I think we got past that. It took some time, but I look at KD, I look at Kyrie, and I look at Harden. I look at LeBron, D Wade, and Bosh, and one thing, Bosh is not the third that whoever you want to make the third at New Jersey is, right?
Yeah, so in your opinion, Mr. Strickland, who got to fall back in that mix then?
No one has to fall back in that mix because they're different. See, they're a different animal, right?
Yeah.
LeBron, how great he is, like from here to here, he does things that other people can't do, right? Dwayne Wade is more of the skill guy and he has the head guy, and Bosh is, he's more the head guy, he's the filling guy, right?
Right.
I think naturally. Mm-hmm. But you have three special guys who you can give the ball, put them on the island, and they can score against anybody. Maybe the top three or top five, right? Yes. So I always look at that team and I say, if the game is close, you have three guys who can just make a play. Yeah. And I don't mean they can make every shot there is to make. LeBron at that time, especially, he's not as skilled as those guys. Yeah, LeBron is not as skilled. Bosh is definitely not as skilled. And I'll put Dwayne Wade, I'll give him that. But those three guys there are just different animals to be on one team. So
especially at this particular point in their career.
Yeah, I feel like they'll fit in. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I was worried about defensively, but in the NBA right now, it's not a whole lot of defense. Who's going to score the most points?
Y'all played in the last era where it was D. Come on now. Let's be clear.
Right. Yeah. It's not defense is not like the deciding factor, these days.
Nobody strap up no more. What's up, Kev?
We talked about that before. I still beg to differ. I'm not saying that it's as essential as it used to be, but there's nobody that's going to win where at least what we've seen thus far, although there has been some marked improvement because it was Swiss cheese for a minute where literally, we're seeing games where guys are scoring 149, 148. That's unheard of.
It's a lot of them scores right now in the league. I'm watching some of the games. I'm like, wow.
That ain't gonna win no chip though. When the
playoffs, it has to change.
When the ball slow down and you need a rim protector in playoff basketball and championship series basketball.
Yeah, that's true.
The video game numbers don't mean nothing no more. That $150, that $160, that don't mean nothing. Yeah. That ball goes.
But I'm gonna say this though. That's a great point. I agree with that. But I'm just, for some reason, man, I just feel like those three are just different. But your point is well taken, for sure.
Okay. Now, with that being said, we all sat here for a moment and sang Harden's praises, as we should, because he's playing out of his mind right now, as well as Kyrie. And I want to take a second to say that when Kyrie is focused, as he appears to be this season, when he's on court, there's really nothing you can do with him. He's a problem. He's efficient. But many wrote Harden off before his departure from Houston. He was a problem. He was a locker room. He was this, that, and that. And a lot of that obviously was done because he wanted out so desperately. But he's managed to shed that image, and he's now very beloved in Brooklyn. Like, we haven't seen this level of love on a New York team since maybe when Melo arrived or when we had Patrick Ewing. But why is he not in the MVP conversation with some of the things that he's been able to do in KD and Kyrie's absence at points and keeping them afloat? Because he's been in a conversation in Houston with far less.
I believe it's the trade. You know, playing half. Well, I don't know if it was half, but moving from Houston to New Jersey. And I really believe it's a trade. And then they had and the NBA, as you know, Rod, they got these guys, you know, from the beginning to the end, who they bet
They already
on.
hitched their wagon.
They already got Embiid, LeBron James, and the young man from Milwaukee,
Giannis.
Giannis. They got those guys there, but James, I believe James Harden is surprising the way he's playing. He's surprising everyone with the Brooklyn Nets. He's surprising everyone.
Well, statistically, I don't think he's surprising because he's always a walking bucket. He's always going to give you numbers.
He's playing really? He's assistant. He's getting guys involved.
My man had a triple-double the other day without a turnover. That's incredibly efficient to get, to do all that with the amount of time that he's had the ball in his hand. I don't think he's getting the just due that he should be getting at this particular point, especially with, and there's no disrespect to LeBron because he's been playing out of his mind as well, but with AD going down, they've kind of trailed off a little bit, and still we don't hear Harden's name being picked up in the conversation. And Embiid deserves his props as well. But why isn't Harden getting that respect? Rod, TJ, anybody want to pitch in?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you got Mr. Strickland. Absolutely, Mr. Strickland. I got you. Go ahead.
No. You go.
I want to say this. I think, and I want to ask y'all this question. Is it because he's really shouldn't have a ball in his hands? Like, how do y'all feel as true ones, as true New York City ones, that maybe he's not getting an MVP nod? Because how many times besides since Nash, when does a point guard really get that nod as an MVP? Even though you're the floor general, you control the flow, the pace, everything, that you are the coach on the floor, but we don't see enough point guards get that credit. So as true ones, like y'all are, why don't you think, like, why don't ones get that consideration? And also, like, is it a good move fundamentally, and will it come back to haunt them later, taking the ball from Kyrie as the true one? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, so first of all, in my opinion, he's in the MVP race, right?
Yes.
And I think,
as do I.
I think the rest of these people, you know, as time goes on, they'll notice it. You know, it's almost like he's being punished. And, you know,
that's what
he was mad in Houston. He comes to the Nets. We can't give it to him right now. He has to prove to us he's a good citizen. So, you know, I'm not buying that. As far as the point guards, and Steph Curry was MVP, so I don't think that's
Mr. Strickland. Is Steph really a one though?
Well, then you could say it's Harden really a one. I think now. But in this day of basketball, like, to me, Kenny A's, like, you know, it's a little different now. Like, you know, there's really no positions these days.
Yes.
So I just think I really honestly feel like Harden had a bad start in Houston. Yeah. And everybody saw him and they felt some kind of way. And now he's on punishment. And he's working his way out of punishment. But at the end of the day, he'll be in the MVP race because he's going to make an impact. You know, those numbers are not going to stop. And all the Nets are going to do is get better and better and better. So as time goes on, closer to playoffs or whenever, they're going to have to give it up. And again, not being a homer, at some point in time, they're going to have to give Kyrie the same recognition. Because, and I swear I'm not being a homer, but if you're going to put KD in it, Kyrie has to be somewhere around there. Like, the numbers and the things that he's doing is like they're on the same. I know Harden is, he's stuffing the stat sheet a little more, but the impact,
he's still. Hey, let's be clear, Mr. Strickland, and because you're on the show, by far he's the best finisher, best closer in the league, by far, and that's going to weigh in an NBA championship in the finals because you need that. Like all this other stuff, it's cool. Euro stepping through the regular season, and that's cool. But that closer, that's what you need to win a chip, a title.
I'm happy you brought that to the table, TJ, because I will say this, and this is not a knock on Harden's skill set whatsoever because he's phenomenal. But we've also seen come crunch time in the playoffs, he has a tendency to kind of disappear down the stretch, whereas we know when it really comes time to putting the ball in the basket down the stretch, you need a bucket. You're going to either KD or you're going to Kyrie. And if we're talking about creating a basket, especially around the hole and drawing the foul, I'm going to Kyrie first. KD's a walking bucket as well, but there's really nothing you can do with that man's skill set. Bar none, he's probably one of the best. And I don't think there's anybody in the league that can touch his handle.
Let's be clear. His teams might have showed up in the playoffs, but he's yet to make a playoff appearance. Read between the lines what I'm saying to you. James Harden is yet to make a playoff appearance.
So let me just.
His team might have showed up. His team was in the locker room. They got off the bus, but my man didn't make it.
Hold on. You wrong for that, though.
Hey, Mr. Strickland, let's call a spade a spade. You on the entire empire. I'm that dude. James Harden is yet to make an impact.
But
he's regular season MVP, and he's yet to make a bona fide dent in the NBA playoff series.
And he played with two great point guards in Houston.
Just saying.
Westbrook, Chris Paul, and they couldn't get it done.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, I ain't gonna argue with that. I think he'll be better. I think things may happen a little differently now with these two strong guys beside him. But I can't argue.
Definitely.
Here's the thing that I think we also have to consider when we talk about Harden's run in Houston. He was the alpha and the omega out there.
Yes.
When he's in Brooklyn now, he's got two guys that are on par with him.
That he can go high, but he can hide in between.
Right. He doesn't have to have that pressure on him, so he can defer to them and they can do it, and he'll still look like he's shining.
That was cool in OKC. That was cool in Houston. This the Apple, homie. This BK. Like, you got to put up or shut up. And it looked cool. Like I said, he Euro stepping through the regular season. Let's see what homie do in a little while.
All right, I'm waiting to see it. With that being said, though, Steve Nash, he recently won Eastern Conference Coach of the Month. Well deserved, or does that go more toward the credit of James Harden and Kyrie's performances over the last couple weeks?
It's always that. That's always the case. No one's getting a head coach of the week, year, day without players. So that's always the case. So yeah, I don't. Steve Nash, his job really, honestly, is to just stay out the way. It's just to give his experience, his knowledge. Like, so I ain't gonna say who said it, but there was a player that said something to me in the recent years, and it was like basically like assistant coaches like sometimes can be in the way, right? Or coaches can be in the way. And I know that sounds crazy to everybody, but like, but there's guys like. And I think Kyrie made a statement that everybody misinterpreted. Yeah. But you have the Kyries, the KDs, the James Harden. These are basketball minds and talented players, right? So you as a coach, sometimes we get this all like everybody has to show they can coach and run a play, but it comes down to players. So all Steve Nash has to do is leave them be, let them free, put them in positions to make plays because they're going to make the plays. And Steve Nash should get credit for that.
He's managing them. Yeah. You know?
Particularly all the personalities that you had. That's probably the toughest part of his job.
Yep.
Hey, can I give you my analysis? Because you know I'm gonna call him, right? He the new Phil.
He's the new what?
He's the new Phil Jackson. He's the new Phil Jackson. What you gotta do but just sit there and watch Mike and Scotty do their thing. What you gotta do is sit there and watch Shaq and the late great Kobe Bean Bryant do his thing. Steve Nash got 3 of them now. He gonna watch this do his thing. What? That man ain't gotta say nothing. He look cute with the face mask on, head there, standing there, arms folded. I watch homie every night do that. You don't. Come on, man. It's a plug and play.
But he's
Go
still coaching now. He's
that's what I wanted.
Absolutely.
I wanted to. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Rod.
No. You got it.
No, but he's still coaching, man. He understands the game very well, and he's a two-time MVP. You know, so those guys respect him. And in the league, you gotta have coaches that the players respect.
To his credit,
and who
DJ
did it? And who did it? He did it. So they're gonna listen to him.
I'll give you that.
DJ actually came out just the other day and said that that's probably the
DJ
best
trying to get some more minutes. DJ lucky that trade ain't happy because my man Jack was taking all his tick.
Come on, man.
I mean Jared Allen. So DJ, playing the game.
So what is coaching? What is coaching?
I gotta be honest with you. I think it's a facilitator. I think somebody who got to be able to be a game manager. I think somebody got to also make sure.
What do you mean by facilitator?
Facilitate from the sideline, because you got to make sure you calling the right sets, or the team is getting the right sets. When you're saying facilitate, make sure you got the right person on the floor at the same time for matchups. Am I wrong? I mean, I'm not an NBA. I'm not a point guard like y'all, so I'm curious. Teach me.
No. I was just asking because, you know, when you make comments about he's just sitting there with his arm folded, then I want to hear some things like, what is a coach? Because what is a coach? Is he supposed to be up? You know what I'm saying? What is he supposed? Just like you said, but you said it. You answered the question, and it's basically putting guys in that position. And so, because sometimes I think people get caught up in the coaching thing, and they think it's this technical X and O's. They think it's X and O's. Right. But it's all of the above, and it's like Kenny said. There's personalities. There's managing that.
Yes.
That's just as big coaching than probably X's and O's. Yep. And so I think Steve Nash, when he got the job, just his personality, right? Kind of laid back, kind of smooth. That's what the NBA is now. Back in the day, you had coaches screaming in your ear, talking crazy to you. That won't work now. So I actually think he has the demeanor. He also, like Kay said, he has the know-how and the experience, and he's been a player. So he's been all three of those dudes. So that all three of those dudes have to respect that. And they'll understand he knows they're talking the same language. Right. So I think as a coach, I think he does have a lot of tools.
Hey, Mr. Strickland, you touched on something. Can I ask you a quick question and we get back to Kev? So why wouldn't that work in today's game? Because we always hear a lot of different people, you know, the talkers that say, you know, these guys are buddy. Nobody got that dog in them. Everybody friends, everybody that's their man. But, you know, when you go and ask somebody like in y'all day, when them great heydays of the 90s, when I was a kid loving y'all, why doesn't that exist no more? So why can't a coach get at somebody? Is it because they get in the bag, they get in the check, they millionaires and they feel some type of way? Or that motivation just doesn't work with today's guys?
Well, and this is just a personal opinion. Really, I didn't like it then, and I wouldn't like it now.
Okay.
Me personally, I don't think that's how you have to interact to get what you want out of someone, right? Okay. I can tell you what I want you to do with this tone right here, right? Okay. And then I could scream at you and MF you or whatever. What's the difference, right? To me, as long as I'm consistent in what I'm saying, if I tell you, and it's different now, you can't do it like this. I'm probably speaking more in college. I got my college hat on. Yeah. But if I'm telling you what I need you to do, then you know if you're not doing this, these are the repercussions, or this is what happened. Now in the NBA, it's definitely different. Right. But I think it's more the NBA now is more of really actually we're in this together. We're trying to figure this out. So I know we say coach, we say management, coach, players, but really back then it probably was more like that, a pecking order. But now we're here as a team because there's players making GM decisions, decisions. So it just depends on their environment. But everything is different now. And to your point, the money may have something to do with that, right? Yes. And that may have empowered to say listen, I ain't just Joe Schmo. I'm making this money. I'm a part of this. Yeah. We're trying to win. This is my future. So I think, it's kind of like a group thing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the NBA absolutely is the trendsetter in regards to that, with the players basically holding the bag and saying this is the direction we're going in, and the team now has to follow up suit. So that's a great point. But I want to touch on something and move on to the New York Knicks very briefly, because we just talked about Steve Nash and being coach of the month in the Eastern Conference. And while he may have had that should the Knicks continue to play the way that they have, and again, the onus is on the players, but if they continue on this current trend, is Tibbs a lock for Coach of the Year?
I'll let Rod, because he's a Knick. He's a Knick. That's why. That's
Go ahead.
and before you get into it, hey, when I was like in high school, I guess 9th or 10th grade, 11th maybe, Mark Jackson and Rod Strickland, they was New York Knicks, man, and I love them two guys. Yeah. Kenny Smith, Pearl Washington, those are 4 guys I watched them guys. I watched all of them, and I love, and Kenny Patterson. And you went to DePaul, he went to the point guards in New York. I watched them, man. So, go ahead, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I love John Dane back then, man.
And I appreciate, and just to go full circle, right? Kenny's saying all that, right? Yeah. And then he goes to Georgia Tech, and we're in the league fanning on him.
Yeah.
So,
that's what's up.
That's crazy.
But the Knicks, I think they've done a great job. I think probably the best thing that's happened with the Knicks is that the leadership, right? They're all together. Like, yes. I would say they're like a family now. Like all of, they brought in a whole new staff. They know everybody. You even look at, they got a lot of Kentucky guys. They got CAA guys. Like they're almost like a family that believes in each other and everybody's on the same page. And I think because of that, we've seen the results. Tibb is an old school. Yep. It's about culture. So he's the type of coach that's coming in. He's going to make you play hard. He's going to make you play together. You're going to do the right things. So now you have, and then you probably, like we talked about earlier, but you have a coach that management is probably leaving alone, right?
Yes.
They're not telling him what to do and how to do it because they have a relationship and they have trust and all that. So I think all of that is just blended well together. They've made some acquisitions. I think even what they've done with Julius Randle, right?
That's
they've made him so comfortable. They've made him the man. They've showed him how to play and how he can score, but also help others. I just think it's been more of kind of like a family team, everybody together thing.
Hey, Mr. Strickland,
there's a cohesiveness here we haven't seen in years.
Let me ask you this though, because from knowing Julius firsthand, like, could you seen this coming back then? Like, did you see this already coming? Because unfortunately, he didn't stick in other places, which is unfortunate because he always was good. But could you have seen this when you seen him and you knew this was coming?
I'll say this to you, right? I was at Kentucky when he was at
right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And he had this ability, right?
Oh,
but at that time, and I think at some time during his career in the NBA, I think he had these eyes, tunnel vision, and I think he thought more about himself than the big picture. And I think this year, and it's so crazy, right? Because kids don't understand that.
Yep.
Like when you start thinking about others and playing with others, like you get better.
Yep.
And I think now he realizes that like all these tools that I have, because he's always had incredible tools, right? I think the facilitating was an issue at one point, but I think now he knows how to get it, when he can get his, when he can help others. And I think he feels good about that. Yes. And I think it's opened up his game.
Okay. With that being said, though, does Tibbs win Coach of the Year if they continue on this trend?
I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't know. Not right now. Yeah. I don't know. Because I got to give it to Nash over there. If I book right now, like I know Tibbs and them have overachieved, but there's others.
We'll get back to it in a moment, but I'm interested in hearing what Coach got to say about this. Go ahead, Kenny.
About Tibbs, I love Tibbs.
Yeah, don't back down now, Coach. Tibbs been your man all year, man. Don't do that. Don't fold on him now.
I love him.
All right.
And I'm glad he's getting the New York Knicks together. And I reiterate what Rod said. Everything he hit right on point with Julius Randle and Quigley. I like he brought Derrick Rose in to mentor Quigley and the guards, and he's doing a great job at it. And I just think, but I was just looking at their schedule. They got a very tough schedule coming up. The New York Knicks, they got a very tough schedule. So it's going to be interesting on how they hold out. But I think they have that whole, the whole organization has came in, and they're doing fine right now, and they're doing great. So we'll have to see. But y'all know I'm still going with Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn Net dude. So New Jersey Net, Brooklyn Nets. That's what I go with.
TJ,
Rod is the Knicks. Rod is the Knicks guy.
I don't understand how Coach and Mr. Strickland looked over this, man. Like, y'all forgot y'all man Glenn Rivers. Like, how y'all not gonna get Glenn Rivers a nod? Like, them dudes was not doing.
Doc Rivers
yes,
over
sir.
in Philly. He might be in it. He's got the because Philly is doing so well. They're in first right now. If they continue this, he will win it. I believe
he should.
Okay.
Hey, so I'm not sold on Philly, right? And I know y'all gonna punch me in the head, but I'm not sold.
Not
on
me.
Philly.
Not
Like,
me.
you're not sold on Philly.
Yeah,
See,
I'm not.
I'm not winning it. I'm not actually, but the big kid, Joel Embiid, he's MVP right now. He's playing extremely well, but I don't know if they have enough. I don't know if they have enough in Philly to win.
I think they crash and burn in the playoffs because of their style and because of. I'm not a big.
Come on, Mr. Strickland. Playing with some of the dominant bigs in your career. We talking about a young Zebo, a young Jermaine O'Neal, Rasheed Wallace, and I'm gonna get to a Rasheed point in a second. Chris, Jawan, like all these big men you play, and now to have, and we know that it's a guard-oriented league now, it's a wing-oriented league. Bigs is very hard to find. It's like almost archaic. Joel Embiid is bringing the bigs back to a certain degree, more athletic, more skilled. Step out a little bit with that 15-footer. Doc is having him as his best, being efficient in his whole entire career. You saying, you ain't sold on that?
Yeah, he's a bad boy, and he's in the MVP race and everything. But I'm talking about as a collective.
With a 6'10" left, right, ambidextrous point guard who can see the floor.
Well, what is he doing in the playoffs?
That's the answer. Yeah, that's the
every year.
And I don't know.
He's not shooting the ball. Like I don't.
I'll give you that. But I think based upon what the resumes currently show this season, we don't have a big body of work. But Coach Doc Rivers has done way more in a short amount of time than what we've seen. And yes, it's a shortened season, but I got to give that man that nod.
Allow me to rebut real quick with Rod the God's point here. You mentioned that Steve Nash, at least in your eyes, is probably the front runner because of what he's done with the Nets. And that's.
But I may want to take that back because he brought up Doc Rivers and there's other people. So I'm gonna take that back as a front runner. His name came up because we were talking. So I'm gonna take that back as a front runner.
So Mr. Strickland, who your top 5 coaches that could be in the running? Maybe
I don't know. I can't like top it off right now to be honest.
Fair enough, but allow me to rebut to that real quick because this is why I say I'm not saying he's a lock, but I think he deserves a little more credit because when we look at a roster coming into this season of the Brooklyn Nets, they're expected to be where they're at.
Yeah.
When we look at a roster like the Philadelphia 76ers, they're expected to be where they're at. When we look at some of these other teams that we think about, they're expected to be where they're at. Nobody at this particular point thought the Knicks were a playoff team, much less they even touched the 4th seed a week ago. Now they dipped down a little bit to the 6th. But if you would have told me in July that the Knicks were at any point in this season, 30 some odd games in, a 4 seed, I'd have told you were crazy. Now, aside from that, we all touched on the fact that he's done some great things with bringing D Rose in and even Taj, and those guys might be a little long in the tooth, but the respect that they get in that locker room and what they've been able to do, along with the cohesiveness as Rod spoke to, you can't sneeze at that and say, nah, he does not deserve a look as coach of the year because they were not supposed to be here. So again, it goes hand in hand with them remaining at this level. If they dip off, then he's done. He gets nothing. But if they stay there and they manage to make 4th or 5th seed, how do you say no?
Got you. I mean, you made your point. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I point taken for sure. For sure. He would have to be, you're right. If they continue on and like you said, 4th, 5th seed, even 6th seed, like, no, you're right. He has to be in contention and up there for sure.
I got Nash ahead of him. I got Doc Rivers ahead of him. I got Monty Williams ahead of him. Definitely got Monty ahead of him.
Yes, Monty. I will
Monty
absolutely.
Williams doing very well
He
over
deserves
there
to
in
be there as
Phoenix.
well. Absolutely.
He's doing very well in
Absolutely.
Phoenix.
And I'm gonna stop right there.
Rising Stars won't be played this season, but they still name the rosters for the U.S. and the world teams. RJ has made the team, but quickly was snubbed. Well, some people would say he was snubbed. Any thoughts on that, fellas? Did he deserve to get a spot on these teams, even though they're not playing?
I haven't seen the roster, but I would think he should have been on it, but I have not seen the roster. But the way he's been playing, I would think he should be on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was a little bothered by that when I saw that. Quigley, he should have been on it. He's been playing extremely well. He's hitting the threes, penetrates, playing good defense, and the Knicks is in a good, position far as record-wise. So, I'm not sure why he didn't. I'm not sure.
They stuck him up with no gun. They gave him the old ATM with the Snicker bar on his back. Like, yo, give me all that. I ain't make the Rising Stars. He should have been there. Like, the Knicks have exceeded all expectations.
Yes.
The young man has come in balling with and look, Coach, you and I have talked about this. His progression from when he wasn't getting no tick and Peyton was getting all the minutes.
Yes.
And we was like, Peyton may should sit down because quickly the time he was getting was showing his worth. Now all of a sudden he come on and how you don't get a roster spot. So like I said, he got robbed with no gun. But I think like Mr. Strickland said, just kind of like with Kyrie, I think he's gonna take a little mental note of that. And somebody gonna have to hell to pay for that. So we'll see what happens second half of the season. That's all that matters.
To be fair, I will say this. RJ Barrett made the team, but he made the world team.
International team. That don't matter.
Yeah, because he's Canadian. But I'm just saying the reason I bring that up is because when you look at the US team versus the world team, if I'll go ahead and say it, if Quickly were from somewhere else, from Canada, because Canada seems to be holding it down on the world team, he probably would have been on that roster. But when you look at the US side is kind of loaded. You got LaMelo Ball, you got Anthony Edwards, you got Tyler Hero, you got Zion, you got a lot of big names there. I still think he probably could have stolen a spot from maybe Keldon Johnson, maybe DeAndre Hunter. It's debatable, but I still think he should have at least gotten a nod. But apparently, everybody's
Hopefully next year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Next year, I think he's a shoo-in if he continues on this particular pace. So, Knicks are 7-3 in their last 10 games, and we're above 500 for 48 hours, peaking at 4th in the Eastern Conference. Can they realistically remain in the top half of the playoff seating? Anybody?
No,
I don't. It's very tough. They got a very tough second half of the schedule, and I don't see it. But they're very young, and they're playing. They surprised me already. So I really don't know. But I'm just to guess, and I'm not. Nah, I don't think so.
Did you say the top half?
The top half, yeah. So the top four.
Top half.
So meaning the top four?
The top four.
No, I don't think. I don't. No.
It lasted 48 hours, bro. I get it.
Hey, he wanted to make sure his hearing was good. He said,
and I'm looking at
Yeah. No, they won't. They won't.
No, not the top.
Oh, I'm dead. That's crazy. Now,
they might be fighting to get that 8th spot.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. This is the entire empire, so we like to keep it honest around here. So I'm gonna ask you a real question. Ready? I was listening to an interview last week, and a former teammate of yours said, I don't know about that jump shot, but nobody sets the table like him. When it comes to drop that off in that paint, he sets you up real right. So my question to you is, over the years, you get cats, and we had one of our guests on our other show, The Stoop. We had a guest on. I'm gonna put his name there because he was forward and saying his top 10 guards of all time. CJ Watson mentioned you. So my question to you over the years, man, and I know you've heard and everybody hears these lists, and we talked about this with Coach when we interviewed Coach initially, that everybody talks about their top guards in NBA history. And let's just be honest, you're underappreciated. You don't get that love. But the streets give you that love. So in your eyes, over your career now being a coach and looking back on your NBA career, your peers give you that love and real recognize real. But in your mind's eye, and be honest with us, would you rather to get that mainstream of that pop love where everybody knows you, or the streets giving you love and really realizing who you are?
Yeah, I never, and I'm being totally honest. That was never my thing. Like who loved me, right? I wanted to hoop, and I wanted that respect, and I wanted like the love when I'm on the basketball court. Like you appreciate that,
Right.
you know. But I've been lucky because my peers, you know, respect what I've done. So the pop thing, I'll tell you this. I would love, one of the regrets for me, right, is not being able to be introduced as Rod Strickland, 4 or 5-time NBA All-Star.
Yeah.
Right. So I would tell you that I would have loved that part of it. You know what I'm saying?
That's
But-
politics though, because you was robbed in '96.
But other than that, like, I mean, me, I'm 54 now, and like I you know, I feel like I get love like I'm still playing, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that so much, and I take that in so much because when I was hooping, I mean, I wanted to be acknowledged as one of the best, as an all-star, whatever. But I wasn't an attention guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So that stuff really never, you know. So, like I said, I would love to have that all-star before my name.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like KA, you know, my
Yeah.
guy, I got Kenny Smith, Mark Jackson. These are guys
Yeah.
that I've, you know, either I've played with, grown up
Yeah.
watching or watching me. Like, so to be able to get that and to be able to have that respect,
Right.
you know, I think it's unique. I think it's genuine. I
Right.
think it says a lot more than, you know, like, for instance, I was never going to be an all-star because the fans weren't going to pick me, right?
Yeah.
Then I was never going to be an all-star because I don't know if the coaches like me.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then I don't know if the league like me, you know, because, and some self-inflicting wound, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Right.
not blaming anybody.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
just like stating like facts.
Fact.
Yep.
So to feel that like, dang, I couldn't get that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, to have my peers and other players and younger players give me that love, like I can't beat that. Can't beat that. And I appreciate that probably more than people really understand.
Most definitely.
It's crazy to me to hear you say that, you know, possibly the league and other coaches might have had, you know, taken particular umbrage to you or for whatever reason. Because I've heard Rick Adelman, PJ, and some of these other coaches that you were under speak nothing but highly of you and what you brought to the locker room.
Yeah.
So
Well.
He said, hold on, there's an asterisk with that. Hold on.
Just asterisk with that, right? Now, Rick Adelman, when he said that, he's genuine with that.
That was your guy. That was your
Okay.
guy.
Most definitely.
He believes that. He'll tell you that to this day.
okay.
EJ, I think if you had asked closed doors, would have said something different, right? and no, but honestly, and I ain't mad at that, right? That's not like a grudge or a shot or anything.
Right.
But that's just facts, right? So there was some of that. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and act like, you know, I was like the golden child, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, no, there was some of that. Like, if PJ, Bernie Bickerstaff, like those guys would say probably great things about me. There's some others who would say some other things, right? Has nothing to do with me on the court. It could be a personality conflict.
Yes.
It could have been outside activities, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not going to act like, that's why when I make that statement, I try to make sure I own some of that, right? I don't want to give that to anybody else. Like, I played a part a little bit in why, not a little bit, I played a part in that, right? If I was the truest professional, NBA All-Star would be in front of my name. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's some underlying things to that. And I'm, you know, like, I'm good with that.
Credit due to you for accepting your role in that. That's dope.
Yep.
But I want to ask
fellas,
you,
I got to say this, and I'm sorry. You can give me one more, but I got this call at 9 o'clock.
Sure, no problem.
It's a little after, and
We gotta
I
get
have to take it.
Sure.
all right, this last one, we're going to pitch you real quick. I just want to ask you, you had a long story career, and it's often said you're among the greatest players to never make the All-Star team, and I'm definitely going to add on to that. But with that being said, is there any one particular season that bothered you that you didn't make it? Like, you thought this was the year and it didn't happen?
Man, I could tell you about 4 or 5, but
96.
I'm gonna give you one that was like blasphemy.
Yeah.
So I want to say
not 96. Not 96.
I think it's 97, maybe 96, 97.
96, 97. Yeah, that's the year.
But I averaged about 18, 10 dimes, almost 11 dimes, about 5 rebounds.
Yeah, I remember that. You was with Washington?
I was in Washington, but this is the key. This is the key, right? I made all NBA second team.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you
you're
become an
telling me,
all-star. That's
so
crazy.
you're telling me by the end of the year, I was a
That's-
top 10 player.
Wow.
But in the middle of the year, I was in top 12 of half of the conference.
That's
Right.
You know what I
interesting.
mean? So
crazy.
that one, you can't get any more blatant than
Wow.
that one. You know what I mean? But there's others I can go, with as well. But that one in particular, is probably the most blatant one.
Yeah.
Mr. Strickland, listen, we're gonna wrap the episode up, but let me say this right quick, 10 seconds. If your young fellas, your young horses, Jawan and Chris, had some season about them, y'all would have cooked the Bulls. They would have been out of here. Let's be clear.
Yeah. And let's be clear on this. Those two soldiers, man. It's one thing I love them dudes, right? Because even that Bull series,
Yeah.
like all that energy, that wasn't my energy. Like I was kind of like a even kill dude, right? But those two dudes, man, you walk in that locker room and get ready for that game, and the energy that they come with and the attitude, that Fab Five college thing, that's what they brought to the league. Like those two dudes' energy about competing and playing was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, listen.
Side note, you gave Mike the business a couple times. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did.
But listen, we're gonna wrap this up, man. We want to thank our special guest, Coach Mr. Rod Strickland, NBA great, New York City legend, man. We want to thank you, Coach, for bringing on one of your good friends. Listen, it's been a great episode of the entire Empire. Until next time, y'all take care.